Let me preface this by saying that I am not a fan of Trump. I've made that clear in other uh, previous streams, but there's always that group of people that will see a title and automatically jump to a conclusion or not without doing any research. It just is what it is. Now, this is more so directed at the idea that you cannot compile a set of social ills or problems with one person being in a position of power. To kind of clarify even more, I can recall a lot of the talk from last year about Obama. I can also recall a lot of the talk from many of the past 8 years about Obama. And people would complain about not being able to afford school, not being able to afford their houses, not being able to live in some safe area, not being able to just do a wide variety of things. And no Rogue Planet I have not seen. I don't even know what that is. But this talk has continued on into Trump being in office. And some sources will point out that Obama's positions were um, right wing in the sense that many of his economic views, uh, I guess, were carry ons from the Bush era. And when that becomes the narrative that is kind of not talked about that much, but sort of repressed because the media won't make those comparisons. You have to go online and view these different sources to tell you how is this president similar to this one from the opposing party. Suddenly, it becomes an idea, this thesis on the part of people who have found out these things, such as myself, that maybe the views expressed by the previous administration have carried on into the new one. So, for example, some will call Trump a warmonger for his foreign policy, even though a good chunk of it is holdovers from Obama's tenure, i.e., still being in Afghanistan, the various conflicts in the Middle East that actually really got underway during his immediate predecessor. Now, a lot of people will complain about those things, but they won't trace it back to who started it. Um, so that's one part of this equation that is seemingly not being discussed in its full capacity. Many of the social ills we've had continuously since that era. And look, this is not to say that now let's blame everything on Obama. Far from it. The Trump administration does enough of that. The problem is you have people who oppose Trump that will say they were in favor of Obama when there's just too many policies that are in line between these two that are reinforcements of each other, but one is more topical to speak about because the other person isn't in office anymore. But also you have to take this, and this was kind of what I was trying to make earlier before I got cut off. People have been speaking about Trump being impeached. You know, there was a video TYT put out yesterday where it said something along the lines of impeachment along the horizon. I was watching it yesterday, and it talked about the same old Mueller, the investigation. And look, I'm not saying there's not grounds to investigate, that nothing is going to be found out as being illegal on the part of Trump associates, but I think that the likelihood of impeachment is very, very unlikely, based around Democrats not having enough seats in either chamber to even have what one would consider a majority, let alone the votes to actually get him out of office. Not only that, but it appears that only a select few number of sources, such as Jimmy Dore, have taken to actually pointing out if you get rid of Trump, you're going to get stuck with Pence, who will be able to smoothly carry out every single thing Trump has done up to this point, except without the various controversies for arguing back and forth with NFL players or some other major news or major media entity. And that's a view that seemingly is not understood on the part of just people I've seen commenting on this. I don't think they're not smart. I don't think they're not intelligent, but I feel that because they're so excited to just see someone get removed, to see something bad happen to this person they don't like, they want to live in this world where once he's gone, all of the problems we had before are no longer in place. Let me say hello to ALU. Um, and it's so aggravating when you consider that the issues that are here a year into Trump's term are still applicable to that of last year, to that of the year before. I can't think of a single thing people weren't complaining about prior to Trump being in office that is not the case now, nor something that has happened since he's been in office that we weren't complaining about before he got in office. We were already complaining about gun control with all of these major shootings. We were already complaining about people not being able to afford their homes or school or just most necessities of life. We were complaining about unemployment. These are things that were bothersome to society for for just a very long period of time. Let's put it that way. Certainly enough to where you could go back 10 years in the past, which is around the time we had the subprime mortgage crisis, and you would have still been seeing people complain about the same things. Okay, and ALU says they want him out because he's representing the Americans the wrong way, I guess. I think a good chunk of them are upset about losing that election, and they know that many of the candidates they want to run can't beat him, so they're trying to figure out any kind of way to get him out of there because they genuinely have a disliking toward him. The problem I am having with this is that they are creating this illusion that the reason you can't do most of the things you want to do or that you should be able to do is Trump's fault. Trump is a figurehead on top of policies that have been enacted and enforced by members of both parties. Let's not forget the centrist Democrats that in the 90s exploded the prison population. You know, let's not keep pretending that this is a one-party thing. Both have their just wide variety of issues. And it seems people can't understand that, at least in mass. Because they're not checking this stuff out daily because they have things they're trying to get done and various problems in their own lives. But this idea that if we just don't have Trump, if we just put Pence in there or somebody else, everything will be all right is nonsensical. ALU would say, but that wouldn't matter because if he gets impeached and Pence will be president, exactly, Pence will be 1,000 times worse than any problem you have with Trump now. Pence will exacerbate because he himself knows the game of politics much better, has played it much longer, and in fact would be much dangerous.